Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Smoke Break, where I teach you my own personal spins on a lot of barbecue classics, smoking meats, grilling, and general cooking recipes. Today's episode falls under the category of smoking meats because we are talking pork, and more pork. We're doing it two styles today. Number one, we are doing a slab of beautiful baby back pork ribs. I'm going to show you how to rub this down, season it. We're going to use the Masterbuilt Sportsman Elite Electric Smoker using hickory chips today. And number two, we are doing pork belly bites. If you're not familiar with what that is, basically a slab of pork belly that you cube up. Also the same method, rub it down, season it, throw it in the smoker for a couple hours, and it turns into meat candy. You might know it in the barbecue world as pork belly burn-ends, similar to a brisket burn-end. If you haven't tried that, I suggest you do so because it's considered quote-unquote the best bite in barbecue. So I'm basically gonna take you step by step on how we do this today. So without further ado, let's fire it up. So this is the beautiful slab of pork ribs that I have, baby backs today, that I got from the local butcher shop. I kind of squared them up. I didn't record that part, but a lot of the times the slab of baby backs will be kind of hanging and coming this way. So I like to square it up, throw the excess away, or you can save it for the dogs or whatever the hell you want to do. And also same thing on this side, to square it up. It just makes the rib look a lot better, more presentable. It's all about presentation because we eat with our eyes first, do we not? And if there's any excess fat, thick fat that we don't really need necessarily, you can trim that off. Get yourself a very sharp blade like I have right here. This is my uni knife. It works pretty well for bread, for veggies, meats, anything. It's very sharp, so that's what I like to use on most things. Also, important note, if you didn't know already, when it comes to smoking ribs, working with ribs, however you prepare them, there's a membrane on the back of ribs. Always make sure to take that off because that's not something that you want to bite into. In case, you know, I'm sure we've all had ribs before. Have you ever taken a bite of ribs and there's a chewy piece that you just don't seem to want to eat? Doesn't go down properly? That's a membrane. That indicates that somebody who cooked that ribs did not take it off. It's not mandatory, but personally, I like to take it off because nobody wants that bite, and it helps the seasonings that we're going to put on this penetrate the meat more. As we let it sit out, it builds bark, and it's more delicious, obviously. So let's season this up real quick, and today I'm pretty excited. Number one, we're going to use McCormick Grill Mates Brown Sugar, the bourbon. It's more of a coarse, there's a lot of pepper, some coarse salt. That's going to go very well on this. That's going to be the first layer of seasonings on both sides. But I'm extra excited today to use Meat Church Barbecue Holy Gospel. If anyone is familiar with the barbecue world, Meat Church is from Texas. The CEO, his name is Matt Pittman. He has a YouTube channel as well called Meat Church Barbecue, and personally I've learned a lot from that guy. He has taught me so much, different recipes, different types of techniques in the world of barbecue. Check that channel out as well. You will not be disappointed. So I've never personally worked with this rub. I tasted it earlier. I'm a huge fan of the way it is, and I know it's gonna go good on this slab of ribs. So let's get it going here. First, we're gonna do the layer of the Grill Mates McCormick Brown Sugar Bourbon. Go ahead and just put that on there. Be very liberal with it because pork can take it. It's a big slab of meat, and we don't want to be shy with flavor here. It is windy, so my rubs are gonna fly everywhere, but I'll pat that down because no season goes wasted here. Pat that in a little bit. And these ribs have been sitting out room temperature for a while because you don't want them to be super cold. So go ahead and flip that over. Straighten them up a little bit. Do the same thing on the back end. And then to get the excess on the board, go ahead and flip the sides over because you don't want to forget about that. Just kind of dab it down a little bit. That's what I like about this cutting board. If anything gets off to the sides, I just kind of roll it over, pinch it a little bit, and continue seasoning. It's never clean when you're working with seasonings like this because they're just gonna fly everywhere, especially if you're working outside. So got that in. That's gonna be the first layer of flavor. Now we're gonna head on to that Holy Gospel Meat Church barbecue rub. Super excited to use this. It's gonna bring a nice color to it as well, a mahogany color, and you'll see that later. There's a lot of sugar in this as well, so it's gonna get a sweet note of that. Already this looks just beautiful as far as color goes. Pat that in as well. Same thing on the flip side, go ahead. It's very windy out here. The smoker is going right now. I don't think it's quite up to temp, but like I said earlier, I'm using hickory chips today, so the smell of that smoke will fill the air in a minute. Flip that back over. Get all the excess on the board. Put that down. So, this is what it looks like, and I'm only using those 2 seasonings today, so that's what it's gonna look like. I'll be back in a second. I'm gonna let this sit out room temperature for about 10 minutes. It's gonna pull moisture out of the meat. It's gonna let all those seasoning work its magic in that, and we'll be back in a second. And the second thing we are doing today are pork belly bites, pork belly burn ends, however you want to label them, it's all the same to me. Basically a slab of pork belly that I got from my local Costco. I sliced them up into 4 different quarters, sections or whatever, stripped them up, cubed them up. I got this over 2 months ago. These were in the freezer for a while, so I let them, so this morning I thawed them out, let them thaw out all day, and now they are ready to go. Basically, they're gonna turn into like meat candy. We're going to smoke them for at most 2 hours, because it's gonna develop a really nice bark from the seasonings that we are gonna use, same ones as we used on the ribs, which have been sitting out for a bit. Look at the color change, the moisture pulling out, they look beautiful. So with these, same treatment that we did to those, I'm gonna start off with the brown sugar bourbon. And once you smoke them for 2 hours and they build that bark, then I'll show you what to do after that to turn them into a meat candy, quote unquote, and they literally dissolve in your mouth. It's like just beautiful bite of barbecue. I like to do these a lot when we're hosting like a Super Bowl party, NFL Sunday game day, got people over drinking, barbecuing. I like to cook these for a lot of people. As an appetizer, you can use it as a main dish or whatnot, but they're usually a side dish for me. And they are never there at the end of the night because they go quickly. People love these. Once again, Holy Gospel from Meat Church. It's gonna bring some good color, mahogany, flavor, sugar, all that greatness. And just kind of work it around, work those mixtures in there. You wanna make sure every side of these cubes are covered. The smoker is already ready to go. The smoker's gonna be around 250 to 275 today, in between that range. And since both of these are pork, we're gonna get the same method, and the cook time should be similar, but these will be obviously longer. Make sure all those seasonings are incorporated in each side. If you missed a couple of pieces, just go ahead and do it again. Pat that in, work them. I was able to get 12 cubes out of these because that's all I had left from when I froze them the last time. So again, just like the ribs, which are looking beautiful by the way, I'm gonna let these sit out for 5 to 10 minutes to pull moisture out of them, and we will throw them in the smoker. See you in a bit. The Masterbuilt Sportsman Elite is up to temp. I just opened the door to let the smoke out a little bit. First goes in the pork belly bites, gonna throw them on the 3rd rack. Slide them on in there. Hickory, the smell of hickory wood is filling the neighborhood right now. Look at these. Pick up your ribs. And remember, how you place it in the smoker is exactly how they are going to cook. So make sure you shape them up a little bit. I kind of do mine sideways since, there you go. They're just a perfect fit. All right. It's gonna take a couple hours to develop the bark on each of these racks, so I'll be back in a bit to check on them, and then I'll show you what we do after that bark is developed. Stay tuned. So we're still holding at 250. They've been in here for about an hour and 30 minutes. I'm gonna open them up real quick to spritz them. Check that out. Starting to develop some good bark. Juices running down, and all the juices from this are coming down on these pork bites. So there you go. Hour and a half so far. Every hour I like spritzing them. You can use apple cider vinegar, apple juice. Each of those are great in barbecue, very common. Or you can use water because I have neither. So there you go. Just make sure you hold on 1 second. Just helps add moisture to the meat. But they're looking delicious. We'll be back. So after about 2 hours in the smoker, these are the pork belly bites. So far, the bark has set beautifully on these. Nothing is rubbing off. I mean, that's what you want to see. You can squish them. Look at that. Look at that juice. But we're not quite done yet. Pats of butter are going in between. That'll melt down. A little bit of brown sugar is going to go on this, and that is what's going to caramelize it. So go ahead and just let that flow. I like to go heavy with the brown sugar. Sweet and barbecue can go. And as this cooks for about another half hour to an hour, all that's gonna set, it's gonna caramelize, butter's gonna mix in with it, juices are gonna be flowing. I'm gonna wrap this up in foil, put it back in the smoker, and you'll see what happens after that. Stay tuned. All right, so the ribs just got taken out of the smoker. They were in there for about 2 hours and 15 minutes maybe. The bark is set perfectly. So this is how we're gonna prep these for the smoker, just for another hour, and you'll see how these turn out. So I got pats of butter down, only got 4 slices, but they're pretty thick. Brown sugar is key with ribs, because sweet, it does very well with the rib flavor. Put that all around. You're basically gonna make a bed for the meat to sit on. And all of those flavors will melt and dissolve into the meat as well, caramelize it. We're gonna put the ribs, this is what they look like so far. Beautiful color, mahogany, juices are flowing. So we're gonna put it meat side down. So just lay it right on top of the butter, the brown sugar. And sometimes you'll see right here on the bones, there's a little bit of like some charred pieces. You don't necessarily always have to take these off, but if you want to, just for presentation, take them off. It doesn't take much to do it. So, and last, I'm gonna use Sweet Baby Ray's original barbecue sauce. I'm just gonna squirt some on the back, wrap it up. Make sure you double wrap foil, and we'll throw it in the smoker to finish it off. Get a little bit of this. Beautiful. Wrap it up, and we'll be back in a bit. So look at how we did. Beautiful color from that barbecue sauce. The bark is set. I took it out of the smoker because we got to do one final glaze and let that set before we are ready to eat. Made myself a little boat. My smoker's already dirty enough, so I don't want any excess juices or pretty much losing my juices. So let's preserve that. Made myself a little boat around the ribs. And I'm going to brush on some more Baby Ray's once we flip it. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over. Set that on down there. Look at that. I mean, that is just gorgeous so far. You can tell because the bones, they start pulling back a little bit. And this is, I mean, this is pretty tender. If it's flexing like that, clapping, you know it's tender. So real quick, let's brush on some of that barbecue sauce, Sweet Baby Ray's, throw it back onto the smoker and let it set. Got your little brush. Just paint it. You know, this is what barbecue's all about. It's all about being creative, having passion, enjoying what you make, letting other people enjoy it, but brushing it, it's like painting. Take your time. The aroma right now is just filling up my backyard, and it's like so good, man. But this is a color that I like personally seeing, so I'm gonna throw this back onto the smoker and let this set, and we will be ready to eat. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the final product of the ribs. If you want to zoom in on this real quick, I already sliced and diced them. I'm going to pile the pork belly bites right in front of that. Pork belly burn ends, however you want to call them. Meat candy. These took about 3 hours. These took about 3.5 to 4 hours because you want to make sure the glaze sets, the barbecue sets, and all that goodness. I'm going to quit yapping and I'm going to dig into it. Let's try the pork belly bites first. Squishing that. It's delicious, man. So good. Just like melts in your mouth, dissolves. The meat is good. Put my knife over here. I need a minute. Let me try the ribs real quick. Everyone else is hungry. I'm gonna take this bad boy over here. Let's zoom in on that. Try it out. Wow. Everything turned out excellent, especially the Holy Gospel rub and the bourbon rub from Grill Mates. I mean, each of those flavors together and a combination of that, the smoke of the hickory, set everything off perfectly. This is what we're having for dinner tonight. I hope you take away something through every video that I put out, because I've learned a lot from YouTube watching other barbecue channels, so I hope to do the same for you. So this is what we're having for dinner. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, get me up there, and I'll see you on the next episode of Smoke Break. Take care.